If I can keep somebody out of that mindset and give them another 20 plus good years, I want to be a part of that. That was the seed that was planted that really sent me down this path, and that the aspiration of changing lives and using fitness as a catalyst to do it. In the 2 years that we've been with, we just closed out 24. We've doubled our member base since we started with BLG. I had a mentor ask me a very poignant question that really punched me in the gut. He asked me in a session, is the gym the end all be all for you, or is it the foundation for the great thing you have yet to create? It shook me because
Welcome to the Barbell Business Podcast. This is a show where we deconstruct the tactics, mindset, and strategies of gym owners and fitness entrepreneurs. Whether you're looking to scale your business, foster community, or simply stay inspired, you're in the right place. Today's guest is a leader in every sense of the word, and someone I'm proud to call a dear friend. Mycal Anders is the founder of Next Level Performance Consulting, based here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And as a former Marine Corps veteran with nearly 25 years of strategic leadership experience, Mycal has dedicated his life to empowering high achievers to prioritize health, eliminate stress, and create alignment between their habits and behaviors. With multiple graduate degrees, including a Master's of Science in Fitness and Conditioning from Arizona State University and a Master's in Global Management from the Thunderbird School of Global Management, Mycal combines fitness experience with a deep understanding of leadership and organizational efficiency. Through his consulting work, he's coached over 4,000 men and women to become the fittest and most fulfilled versions of themselves. Please join me in welcoming Mycal Anders. Mycal, how you doing today, man?
great, man. Honored to be here. Appreciate you.
All right. Yeah, man, my pleasure. In diving in, I want to just get started with your story. I think everybody wants to know how you got here.
Yeah.
And so share with me, how did your experiences in the Marine Corps shape your mission and getting to here? And if you want to also fill us in on what life was like before you opened your gym.
Yeah. So quick backstory. My catapult into fitness as a life path. I was an athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life, but really the genuine concern for my clients was really born of my dad's first heart attack in my sophomore year of high school. And I remember he was he died when he was 65, so he had to be in his early mid 50s at that point. And I can remember sitting next to him in the hospital bed and like, Dad, you got to take care of yourself. You know, my dad was a Vietnam era Air Force veteran, smoked a couple of packs a day, McDonald's, the whole thing. And I remember his outlook, while I understood it, was really hard to accept. And what he told me in that conversation was, look, son, I've got 6 healthy kids. I came back from Vietnam. I escaped poverty. We live a great life. I've lived a great life and maxed that thing out. I'm good. And it was like a very somber surrender to how far he'd gotten and it just being good enough despite all of his achievements. And he lived an epic life. And I was like, if I can keep somebody out of that mindset and give them another 20 plus good years, I want to be a part of that. So that was the seed that was planted that really sent me down this path, and that the aspiration of changing lives and using fitness as a catalyst to do it. So then my first mentor in strength and conditioning, Alan Hedrick at the Air Force Academy, was the guy who really hitched my horse to his wagon with regards to the X's and O's of strength and conditioning. And it's like, man, I could do this for the rest of my life. And when I left the academy, I ended up getting my undergrad in health and human performance and started my professional career in strength and conditioning, personal training at Gold's Gym. And circling back to the Marine Corps, I was an air traffic control officer by trade, and every unit I was attached to, I was the training and standardization officer as well. So I took our unfit Marines and got them combat ready, mission capable, and deployment ready. Got them from fat to fit, and increased physical performance by 25% across the board in all those units, and also had the opportunity to redevelop the female upper body development program for the Marine Corps. I'm in the business of watching women do cool shit, really cool feats of fitness every single day. So to set the bar so low for our female Marines as we're becoming more accepting and of them in combat professions, like, all right, well, let's prepare them for success, so that from a cultural perspective, if the Marine Corps is the good old boys gun club, they pass the eye test, and the culture is more willing to accept them because they're able to demonstrate their fitness and combat readiness more demonstrably. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, all roads pointed to opening my gym. And so I left active duty February of 2012 and opened Next Level, which back then was CrossFit PHX, in April of 13.
As I've gotten to know you, I remember, and I don't know if this is still your gym slogan, but I don't live far from your gym. And at one point we were in competitors, but I remember on your door, it said, raise your standard, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Raise your standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, of course he picks that. That's like, what the cliche motto for a CrossFit gym. And I'm like, and I'm like, and then I get to meet you. But then after I sold my gym and moved on, we got to know each other, and we stayed in contact. Then we started hanging out. And as I've learned so much about you and the type of person you are, all the things you just said and your pedigree and everything that's gotten you here, like, I'm like, oh, he meant that shit when he said raise your standard, because he's doing it for himself. Like, standard is something I would say Mycal Anders holds himself to.
Thank you.
So with that, like, you retitled the gym Next Level, right? So what does Next Level mean to you, and what does it reflect to your approach to fitness and performance consulting?
You and I have a lot of very deep rabbit hole philosophical conversations. And, there's this thing in psychology and philosophy called self-actualization. And I don't believe that we ever actually arrive. And, that's why that's where progress always came from. And that's the ethos of Next Level. There's always, and it really speaks to the evolution. That 4-star logo really speaks to our states of being. Your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual. But if you notice, everybody looks like, hey man, did somebody fuck up your logo? The big star is like hanging off the edge there. And no, the 4-star is incomplete on purpose, because we are in constant evolution, and there's always something to work on. Not that we are incomplete or unfulfilled by any means, but as we transcend the seasons of our lives, there's always something to work on. And that's really why we approach things at Next Level the way that we do, from that holistic perspective. Because I found in my career that to just isolate fitness for what it is, we're not dealing with the system. We're only dealing with and that's not the whole person. And we're actually doing a disservice.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And what you made me think about with when you talked about self-actualization, I always think back to the guy named Robert Dilts. He's one of like the original neuro-linguistic programming practitioners. And there was like a couple of schools of thought that like deviated back then. One group went left and one group went right. And Robert Dilts came up with what was called the logical levels of change. And, at the base levels, environment, changing someone's environment. And then when you change someone's environment, the next level up becomes accessible to change, which is behavior. And then above that is your skills and capabilities, and then becomes your beliefs, and then becomes your identity. And at the very top of that thing, I always think about, it's like, it's not even part of the pyramid of the hierarchy. It's on top. It's like the star above. It's self-actualization. Mm-hmm. It's a fully actualized version of yourself as you're meant to be, right? Like you step into that version of yourself. Yeah. So I absolutely love your figurative nature of what you explain and what Next Level means. And self-actualization is always something you work at, right?
Yes.
Because that hierarchy, it's not like you ascend that thing linearly. You don't just like go from one to the next, at the top, you're done. It's actually like a cycle. Like you get to the top, and you're like, we get to go right back to the bottom again. Because
That's right.
Once you get there and you step into this new identity, you will start to surround yourself with people who have ascended as well. And you will either want to ascend, or maybe you're cool with where you're at. That's totally cool. For those that can zen out, totally envious of you. But every time I've climbed that ladder and I get to the top and I meet someone who's on that next level, and I thought I didn't want it, and I'm seeing how they live in their life, and not even just monetarily, but just like the things they're going after and the things they're striving to achieve and the amount of output they have. I'm just like, man, I got to go back to the bottom. I got to go back to the environment, shift my environment, be around more people like a Mycal Anders to pump me up. And that way I can go to that next level, behavior change and skill acquisition and all this, right? You've evolved into Mycal Anders, performance consultant, and like a much bigger mission. You don't even really do the same thing anymore. So what were some pivotal moments in your career that led you to focus on leadership as a part of fitness?
Dude, so I'll start the first one. I had a mentor ask me a very poignant question that really punched me in the gut. He asked me in a session, is the gym the end all be all for you, or is it the foundation for the great thing you have yet to create? And dude, it shook me because I'd never thought about it like that before. And what I was at odds with in that moment was the idea that if the gym indeed was the end all be all for me, holy shit, I peaked too early. And like, that was a very disheartening thought. And also, if it's the foundation of what I have yet to create, holy fuck, like how epic is that going to be? Because it hadn't even entered my thought process yet. So, and with that, through a lot of introspection, I reconcile with the fact that I don't feel like I've peaked. I don't feel like I've maxed myself out by any means yet. So the inescapable truth is it has to be the foundation, right? What else could it be if it's not the peak, if it's not the pinnacle of my professional and fulfilled existence? So that was like aha number one. And then number two, I have had the tremendous good fortune of client longevity. My clients, our members have been with us for a really long time, like a good portion of them, a decade plus. And that conversation sooner than later transcends fitness. Losing 40 pounds, dropping 5%, getting off your blood pressure medications, typing Camelback without taking a break. Like all of that stuff, yes, it's important. 100% serves a lot of ego, is very important from a health and wellness perspective, but it's deeper than that. And the conversation always led to either a significantly emotional experience that triggered this necessity for fitness in the first place, or just something that had deeper significance. And the fitness part of it, our role in their life at that point, was just simply treating a symptom, but we hadn't gotten to the cause yet. And it really led to a much deeper conversation that was having more and more often. And I was like, well, and I have this tattoo on my left arm. It says, I only got this far because of what I did not know. And I just started asking more questions. And then we started dealing with like real shit. Why do you allow these toxic people into your life? Why do you why does your self narrative like that? And all of those things, once dealt with, all of a sudden, the fitness part became really fucking easy. Going back to that environment piece, right? They had created a level of clarity that empowered them to actually make the environmental changes that started to bridge the gap between where they were and their aspirational self so much faster. And when you look at that from a holistic perspective, we're not trainers and coaches anymore. We're consulting. We're dealing with the system, and instead of the epiphany that I had was a lot of those same clients had a nutrition guy over here in Milwaukee, a life coach in San Diego, and here we are counting the reps and writing the programming. And it's like, well, what's your nutrition person telling you? What's your mindset guy telling you? And you get all this information and none of them want to talk to us. And a lot of what we're doing in the gym and what they're prescribing outside the gym are just so happen to be in conflict with each other, but they're not interested in what we're doing. And they sure as shit don't have any interest in talking to us. So because of the standard that you mentioned that we have for our team and the culture that we've created, like, fuck it, you're only going to have that conversation with one person, and we're going to become subject matter experts in this holistic protocol so that we're taking a unified approach and everybody's on the same page with everything that you're doing and you can't miss.
Yeah, that's amazing. It made me think of, so I'm building this house right now, and we've made the mistake of trying to play general contractor on our own, and it has cost us an enormous amount of time and far more money than it actually would have saved us. And it's kind of the same thing in the sense that I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay a general markup so he can go find the drywall guy. I'll just go find the drywall guy. And then oh, I'm not going to pay the general to find a tile guy. I'm just going to find a tile guy. We did that. And again, we lost a lot of time and a lot of money. And then it's kind of, you just reminded me of this, of that, like we finally this last month decided we got to get this thing done. Let's go ahead and make this big fat payment to this guy and pay a big, 30% more than we would have for this collective of services.
Mm-hmm.
And like instantly in like a week, he got done what like 3 months of the previous guys got done. And and the reason why is because the magic of it all and what you're doing is he's bringing these crews together and they're all communicating under one cohort of people versus like when I had I remember there was a day I had the roofers I brought in with the tiles I brought in with the electrician, and they were all like mad at me and mad at each other because the roof guy is up there ripping off the roof. Meanwhile, the tile guy's got stuff falling down from the roof into the thin set. And he's like, this is, like he's mad at him. I'm gonna fight somebody. And I'm like, no, calm down. It's my fault, Jay. Like, chill. I'm the one who made the mistake. And it's like so inefficient. But it's like I think that's not necessarily something unique to just the fitness world. It's like in all walks of life, whenever you're trying to juggle multiple things, which a healthy lifestyle is fitness, nutrition, accountability, sleep, mental health, right? These are all things that like you could hire 5 different people to do those things, but there's absolutely going to be a barrier to cross when the lines get blurred between one because you can't really do the framing without considering the drywall. And it's just like you can't consider the training protocol if you don't know how someone's fueling their body, right? So it just made me think of that, which is pretty relevant to me at the moment. And I can see 100% how it's worth it to bring that value together in one place and take a consultative approach versus a point and shoot type of approach.
Yeah. And at the same time, we have a culture of humility where if you need a specialist, our network is extensive. So we're more than happy to refer you to the psychologist, the naturopath, the acupuncturist, the chiropractor, the things that are for sure outside our scope, but for the most part, to make the progress that most people want to make, like you just need to have an integrated conversation, and then we're able to isolate where the specialists come in. But I've heard this amongst the medical professionals in our client base as well. One of the issues in Western medicine is not so much like the big pharma tinfoil hat part of it. It's you have so many specialists that they cancel out the system, right? They're only looking at this. They come at it from such a myopic point of view that the bigger issue or the root cause never actually gets addressed.
Yeah, it is absolutely a big problem in our greater system.
But to your point, that happens in a lot of different areas, not just, the things that we've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Over the 4,000 people that you coach, I mean, that's an incredible impact. And like you said, there's a staying power with the clients that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share 1 or 2 success stories that really stand out to you that like let you know that you were doing the right thing and that you had found for the phase that you were in and the phase of climbing the ladder that really stood out to you?
I'll share with you 2.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got out of the Marines, I was training at one of these country club. For those of you listen far and wide, to name it's not going to make any sense to you. So, but I was training at a high-end fitness facility here in town, and one of my clients from that area, we parted ways when I opened the gym. And along the way, I start dating my wife, Nicole. We did the long distance thing for a little bit. She comes down and we're on a date and I bump into his wife. And, I left everything on good terms, and she was I hadn't seen her in a long while, and she's really sad and like downtrodden. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, oh my gosh, you haven't heard. My husband has cancer. And I was like, oh my gosh. All right. And I haven't seen him since I opened the gym. I'm like, if you guys need anything, please let me know. And if I can do anything, I'm here. And so I made sure she had my number, and, that got us back connected. And months go by and I get a phone call, and it's her. She's like, he's in remission. We beat it and he needs you. Okay. So he comes in, and when we were training, prior to him getting sick, he was about 165, 170 pounds. He's like south of 130 now from all the chemo and the radiation and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, what do we want to do? And he says, I just want to do a fucking pull-up, man. I was like, okay. So do the diagnostic, whatever, and we put the protocol together and we start doing one-on-ones, and we go from 0 to 10 pull-ups. He starts putting on weight, putting the program together, the lifestyle integration of it all, etc. And he would hang out after our one-on-one and watch class. And then we get into the open. This is back in 2014. We get into the open. He watches all that chaos and craziness, and he's like, after the 5th workout of the open, we're sitting around after I'm getting ready to coach a class, and he's like, when can I do that? I was like, dude, you've been ready. He's like, well, I think I want to do classes now. So we took him off one-on-ones, got him into classes, and dude, he has been crushing ever since. He's completely cancer-free, and I got invited to his daughter's wedding, and his daughter pulls me aside at the reception. She's like, thank you for saving my dad's life. And so that's number one. It's just like, fuck, dude, if that doesn't keep you in the game, I don't know what will.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as you, what is it? If you could save one life, you save the world. There's something, in my gyms, I used to train people, and we had some stories like that used to really motivate me especially on the days where, like, you're just, we all have those days, no matter how impactful and driven of a person you are. Yes, you're just like, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not feeling it today.
There are periods, dude, where it's like, I don't think anybody gives a shit what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Am I really making an impact? It's been a long time since I heard thank you. And dude, that's not what you do it for, man. But every once in a while, you get caught low, and you're just like, fuck. And then you have a conversation like that. And it's like, Yep. Okay. We're on the path, baby. Let's go.
You just filled up your cup for 5 more years at least.
Yeah, dude.
Right? Like
it extends the runway for sure. And the second one I'll tell you, coming back to this whole the consultation piece, I had a client come to me, the typical, hey man, I'm feeling like shit. I need to lose 40 pounds scenario. I'm like, okay, so we start down that path, and I start asking questions, and it didn't take too long to see a pattern developing where everything that could go wrong in his life, all the source of his frustration, his lack of fitness, his inability to prioritize himself, stemmed from his business. And he's super successful from a socioeconomic standpoint. He's crushing it. He has solved the money problem. And yet his blood is boiling and his pressure's going up because someone didn't unlock the door when the bell rung. You know what I mean? So, I just started asking questions. I was like, hey, dude, so we're 6 months in, we're down 40 pounds, like your testosterone's gone up, your blood markers have improved, and you still feel like shit, and you're still like angry in your relationships. So like if the 40 pounds was supposed to make your life better, why hasn't it? And dude, I just sat and waited, like just think about that for a second. Like, oh shit. And this is so many people. And this is very normal. And this is why we take the approach that we take, because fitness only addresses a symptom, and it can equip you in a very healthy and toxic way to avoid your fucking problems. So I was like, you do realize that the common theme of all the things that are not going right are because you haven't a failure to delegate, a reluctance to invest in infrastructure, so you really have 3 options at this point. You can keep doing what you've been doing, and, should we part ways in training, you'll just gain the 40 back and be right back to where we started. That's option A. Option B, you can invest in the infrastructure, staff up, and delegate a lot of those headaches downstream. Or, dude, we can also acknowledge the possibility that you've taken it as far as you can take it with the resources and the skills that you have, and position yourself for M&A, right? And Like I am not a business coach. I want to just put that out there right here, right now. I am not a business coach. However, I've asked very objective questions that allow my clients to make their own decisions and move the needle in their lives. So he teed himself up for option C, and 18 months later, he exited his company. He now sits on the board of that portfolio. He does all the things that he wants to do inside that vertical of the portfolio. And now he has all the freedom to give back and be of service and seek fulfillment in other ways outside of his business. And that's what we do. You know, he's kept the weight off. He's in good health, you know, like all of those things. That's what we do at Next Level. And he's one of my favorite stories because he embodies putting it all together.
What I hear you saying is you help people become the type of people who does the types of things, right? And I think so many people in the health and the fitness world, like they figure out how to get good at a certain part of the spectrum of things you can do. And like it's like they got a hammer and everything starts looking like a nail. And then they're like yelling at people. And I see gym owners, because on my social media feeds, like all my connects and audience are gym owners. And half the people out there think that it's a great marketing approach to guilt the audience around them into like, why aren't you the kind of person that does these kinds of things? And I'm like, well, wait, isn't that what your business is supposed to help them do? You know what I mean? Like they're not supposed to walk in like a ready-made customer. Most people are broken in some way and know it, and they don't have the answers. And when they're walking in, yeah, like the platform you're choosing to make change through is a fitness, nutrition, and accountability. But it's the broader application of all those things and an understanding and a mindset. And it is very tribal, right? And that like your tribe adopts those things when they become a customer, and you help them, you indoctrinate them, right? Like if someone, you know, it's kind of viewed as a negative term these days because people think indoctrination means what the school system thinks it means. But indoctrination, like in the tribal warrior days, would be like, hey, I want to join your tribe. And they would say, well, you're a military guy, so you know. People might look at it as like, oh, you do boot camp because it gets you physically ready for it. It's like, no, you do boot camp because it breaks who you were, erases the page, and gets you ready to become one of them.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
It wipes the slate clean.
We all come in different and come out the same.
Yeah. And it's because of a specific need and you know, the military exists for. And those that feel like could have the most impact through that medium and platform are going there to figure out how they can be a part of it, right? And you can't have 5,000 different personalities doing 5 different things. You need a unified approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, and I'll tell you, coaches are lazy, man. You know, everybody wants their Peyton Manning, their LeBron James, their Michael Jordan, their Lance Armstrong. Like those motherfuckers work hard. They're disciplined. They're already doing the deal. You know, so you give them the one piece that moves the needle a lot, and they're off to the races, right? You don't have to coach them. Like this, I want to like scream this from the rooftops. That's not coaching. Right? When you have somebody who's like at odds with their identity, when you have somebody who's like struggling to, you know, come off that snooze button and, you know, retool their shopping habits and change their relationship with food and stop taking shit from toxic people. Like there's a lot that goes into that. That's coaching. And holding them accountable to who they desire to become. That's fucking coaching. Somebody who's already there, who's already identified the goal and is halfway there and they just need that extra inch. 1, those people are rare. 2, I love those people and there's more than enough room for them on our team too. And also, the great majority of people are not them. So to create that expectation, to cast that message and then shit on everybody, 99% who ain't that just makes you an asshole.
I think you nailed it pretty spot on, because I see that and I'm like, I shake my head every time and I'm like, you know, because it's like, of course, everybody would love to train the LeBron Jameses and the Kobe Bryants of the fitness world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those outliers, but like you said, it's not 99% of people. Your job is to lay out the path for them, and that includes from the minute they start at your gym, that indoctrination phase, into how they become one of us, right? That's huge. Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I want to it kind of ties in a little bit to it's not a complete switch here, because I think it's kind of hand in hand, but industry trends and insights. I kind of want to get perspective on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, leadership and fitness, kind of where
Mhm.
it's going. And the question is, what trends have you noticed in the industry of recently? And you can whip your crystal ball out and tell us where you think it might be going, or it could just be like where you hope it goes to as well. Those, and how maybe that is influencing your work currently.
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely noticed a huge gap in terms of service offering. It was very surface, like as an industry, it's very surface level. At where we've chosen to go extremely deep with a select few. So we're going, we've chosen a model that is value over volume, and if you're committed to being a micro gym, you've got to have a differentiator. The group fitness, whether it's CrossFit or now High Rocks or whatever. I think there's a lot of truth to the idea that you're teaching, you're empowering your people to not need a coach in that regard. We have probably 20% of our group base that are also confident and competent enough to show up off class schedule if it doesn't work for them and come and do the workout on their own. Right. So to dismiss that or ignore it, you're not addressing something. So I think that it's really important that if you're attached to something like CrossFit, for example, which has become ubiquitous and commonplace as a style of training and less a brand, in my opinion. You see barbells in a rig in any setting, and you think CrossFit. It has become the Band-Aid by brand of fitness. You see adhesive tape with some kind of protective layer on it, and you call that a Band-Aid, not a bandage. A box of tissues is Kleenex, right? That's how I look at CrossFit now. It's a style of training and less a brand. So with that recognition, it really empowered us to drop our affiliate, because from a purely objective business standpoint, there wasn't any value to the CrossFit brand attached to our facility and our mission in terms of building the biggest leaders. Because really and truly, when you take the diagnostic, prescriptive, consultative approach that we do, we also acknowledge that CrossFit may not be the style of training that facilitates your goal. Inside our facility, we've put three people on stage in bodybuilding competitions. We've had people get ready for ultra races and rim to rim to rim in competitive times, things of that nature in our facility. But if you walked in, you would assume it's a CrossFit box, right? But we also have our Morosco ice bath. We have our infrared sauna. We have our red light room. We have Joanna, our fascial stretch therapist. Alyssa's going to physical therapy school. Matt's our sport performance guy, right? So we're able to tackle the spectrum of training to really customize the approach for the client. And also because CrossFit and functional fitness are a fun style in a group environment, then that is our chosen method of group fitness, right? So we attack everything from a prescriptive principle standpoint so that we're able to customize the approach for the client. And then our chosen preferred method in the group space is functional fitness, CrossFit style training. Like to the simpler, short story long answer to your question, where are the trends going? If you're gonna fight to stay small, you better figure out your niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the old saying is the riches are in the niches, right? Especially as a market starts to consolidate. And almost every gym owner I've had on this podcast so far, the conversation's kind of gone here of like kind of the evolution of the last generation of fitness, right? Because that's what, CrossFit, amongst many other things, were part of. But like, there's definitely too many gyms at one point. right? And too
Yes.
much saturation. And what made it super cool at the beginning is there was a huge demand and not enough supply, and then that flipped. So now you're seeing a consolidation, and all the big players in the space are going to always have a spot, because that's where everything consolidates to, is to the kings, the category kings.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that also comes a consolidation of like a lot of different services in one place that yields kind of a different product from what we all thought it was back in the day. So
Right.
in a competitive market, you got to differentiate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the gym owners listening, what's one mistake, and as a result, a lesson you learned and a pivot you've made that was a valuable lesson that you've implemented that made a big change in your business?
Just one?
Or you could share a couple.
So I had a lot of expensive lessons in the very beginning. I admittedly was the quintessential technician turned business owner. I'm really good at this training thing, this coaching thing, this consulting thing. Signing that lease and unlocking those doors, I knew fuck all about business. I came in with too many partners who made a lot of promises that they didn't deliver on, and that cost me a lot of money to get them out. Definitely had shiny object syndrome, and in the early days when the market wasn't ready for it, added way too many additional services that didn't make any money at all, wouldn't pencil on a business plan if I had put one together at the time. And I was even though I've been the beneficiary of mentorship on me as a person, I didn't invest in strategic business guidance until far too late in the game. And if I could do it all over again, I went brick and mortar while I was working on that first master's degree, and made a lot of concessions on the business so that I could graduate and do well in school. And it took me a lot of years, close to a decade, to unfuck the culture to become the next level that everybody knows today. And, that was just a lot of painful unwinding, using the cliche, the inmates were running the prison for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
And if I could do it all over again, I would have postponed the master's because I could always go back to school. Shit, I got another 1.5 master's degree since then. And just really dialed in the business. I wouldn't have hired any coaches, and I would have hired an admin, because that is the chink in Mycal's armor. I'm not an administrative guy. I'm not a systems guy. I would have definitely put somebody in that seat, paid the technician, and built the business on that foundation. So yeah, those are the three big ones, man.
Yeah. That's a great piece of advice. I mean, it was really no different than, when I ran Spark, that was the big shift for me. We'd hired coaches, mm-hmm. But as soon as I was able to unbottleneck myself a little bit there, it really became all the administrative stuff. Cause I'm the same. I think we're probably, you're a little bit more leadership operations. I'm probably a bit more sales. So maybe a little bit different directions we lean in, but mm-hmm. Either way, the story is the same in the sense that I couldn't lean into that thing as much. Yeah. I couldn't, I knew the best way I could serve my company was to be focusing on marketing and sales and getting in front of more people, because I was bogged down with administrative stuff. So hiring an admin I think she walked in and she was like $14 an hour at the time. Mm-hmm. I had to pay a little bit more in today's money, but at the time, $14 an hour was like, she was cool. And she was like, okay, can you get me 30 hours worth of work? I was like, yeah, if you can work 30 hours a week, that'd be great. I got plenty for you to do.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And this might dive into a whole nother podcast episode, but I'm curious, for as many gyms as you work with, and as many, you talk about saturation and consolidation, and you and I playing in the same sandbox for a little while. What do you think stops us from joining forces and creating something bigger and more? Why do we choose to stay alphas, and why is there so much less collaboration than and I don't know you to be a person of scarcity, so that's not it, but there's definitely not, but if there's lack of collaboration and consolidation, there's definitely a lack of abundance for sure. Why do you think that exists?
Yeah, it's probably, and by the way, I love in podcasts when the guests interview the hosts. I'm like, oh, this is getting good. I think there's definitely an alpha nature to it, especially with gym owners, right? It takes a certain type of person to be like, I'm good enough at this thing to teach other people in the first place. and, you know, I'd say for probably both of us, probably a little bit of youth, you know, I'm definitely a different guy than I was 10 years ago when I
For
first
sure.
met you. And even
Yeah.
though like I thought you were a nice guy, like I always wanted to crush my competition. Yeah, he's nice and all. I hope they're going to be okay. But like, I'm going to eat first, like, you know? And so like, that's definitely something that's evolved with time. I probably still have that, to be honest with you. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably a little bit more self-aware of it than where I
Yeah.
wasn't back
Sure.
then. And, you know, so that from my perspective probably is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's your take?
Well, as those words were coming out of my mouth, I'm like, dude, that's a very 40-year-old question. You sure as shit weren't asking that at fucking 28. But,
Yeah.
so yeah, I do think the ignorance of youth is definitely at play, where the ego is very much prevalent. But you know, at the same time, you know, even in the realization, like, damn, you know, me and Will could do something dope together, or, you know, the next CrossFit box, assuming, or the next micro gym down the road that just opened up. It's like, man, that's a lot of spread loaded effort. You know,
Yeah.
we could do something cool together. I think it's very egocentric to not entertain the possibility, right? Because at just from a sheer leadership perspective, one of you will inevitably have to take the lead.
Yeah.
And to do that consciously, like in the Marine Corps, it's very obvious. You know, if I outrank you, that there is no discussion to be had. But between Mycal and Will, we have to choose who's in charge. And that is a very, you have to concede the ego to have that to have that conversation objectively to serve the bigger picture. And I don't think, if you're not doing the work that you and I do and the people that are in BLG and coming to the mastermind and are open to that level of introspection and that concession of ego, it makes it very challenging to do that on purpose, or to be willing to have that conversation in the first place.
Yeah. I think you're 100% onto something that I've thought about before myself, and that like it is part of the nature of our business and kind of inherent only because we are all doing it, right? Like every gym owner thinks that they're the best at what they do. And, you know, and they're always concerned that if I were to give that a try, there would be a great deal of misalignment because they don't understand the way we approach it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a thing that maybe is just inherent of, I mean, we're literally talking about moving weights with our bodies as like the most alpha of alpha things that like you can do, right? It's like the Spartans, like we're like, yeah, we train to do this, right? Like, yeah. You know, and then people are like, you know, there was no conversation of masculine versus feminine. Like, no, we just get this stuff done, right? You know, but that being said, I've thought before, I'm like, in most other industries, there is collaboration that, you know, it helps rather than the community all being fragmented and everybody being siloed. Mm-hmm. There's collaboration. And as a result, there's more upward movement and less tearing down, you know? And so I don't, you know, and it probably, you know, I guess it's definitely something we hear at Big Little Gyms in our community, we aim to provide as part of the tribe, you know, like a place mm-hmm. where, you know, we are openly collaborating, but like on a local level with the other gyms in your same city, that can be a tall wall to climb, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Great question. Yeah. I'll definitely think about that thing later. I didn't know I was getting interviewed today, but that's okay.
No, I mean, these are the thoughts that keep me up at night.
In the nature of talking about partnering up and collaborating, you know, you've worked with Big Little Gyms, and so I always like to ask everybody who's been a part of our program, for myself and for anybody else listening who's considering working with Big Little Gyms, how the partnership and us working together has impacted your work and your clients, if you want to speak on that. So the first question I have to kind of tee it up for you is if you could give us a little bit of an idea of what things were like before working with Big Little Gyms. I know you've kind of foreshadowed a little bit in our conversation, but if you want to speak specifically, what some of the things that you were struggling with when you came to us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, dude, systems implementation. So I'm like, again, I speak the language of who. So if you ask me anything about my business, my vision, my mission, anything, I'm going to answer it in people. And so being able to identify who needs to sit in certain seats with the organization, like that part's easy. But then putting the systems and the processes, equipping them for success in that regard is so far away from my genius. And we are so far along in the journey that we'd have to slow we'd have to slow down so much that it would cripple me, and it would make me worse in the capacity that I am highest and best use to next level. So coming on board with BLG equipped me with the infrastructure, so I can plug my people into the BLG system to move these initiatives forward from a systems and processes standpoint. Sales, follow up, CRM, all that stuff like that has been massive. And then from an X's and O's model standpoint, being able to engage again in a collaborative effort with people that are doing it in different markets and doing it better than we are in certain ways. Like being able to have those open kimono, vulnerable conversations around like, oh man, like we tried this and it didn't go so well. Like, oh, well shit, man. Like I solved that problem 6 months ago. Do it this way and come back to me and let me know how let me know how it works. Boom. Jim offered Codex. Here we go. Nicole, do this thing. And it has changed the game for next level at a fundamental business level.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Can you tell me, next question, I guess, is, what are some of those successes? Like specifically, like, have you had like, some gyms, it's like, oh, we added whatever, 100 members X amount of time. Some it's like, the gym offer Codex. That's been a huge one for a lot of gyms. I'd love to hear some of your successes with that. I know on that end, the pricing and getting the offer and the presentation
Dude,
of it's huge.
So we were in the business of upselling for a long time at HQ here in Scottsdale. And as a result of the most recent mastermind, we flipped that and now go value down and really have strategically changed our approach with price anchoring and value creation. And that has been most massive. And in the 2 years that we've been with, we just closed out 24. We've doubled our member base since we started with BLG.
Wow. It always makes my day, man, to hear these things. And what would you tell another gym owner who's considering working with Big Little Gyms?
First, do it. Most obviously, but really and truly, when you sit with yourself and you realize like, oh man, like these are the things I'm best at. These are the things I'm weakest at. Like BLG will not only help you identify what those things are and where your highest and best use is to your organization, whether that's staying on the floor as a technician or getting off the floor as soon as possible and getting in that administrative seat. That part, it becomes crystal clear through the BLG process, as well as how to find, nurture, train, and develop the team that you need to create the highest likelihood of success.
Awesome, man. Thank you for that. That's an amazing testimonial, man. And I'm really grateful to have you a part of it. And for what it's worth, I learn a lot from you as well, man, as a friend. I know being in close proximity and getting to spend more quality personal time together and talk about other things besides just gym owner stuff. I mean, you become, like I said, a very dear friend, and I look forward to our conversations. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And if you are a gym owner, after what Mycal said, if that fires you up and you're looking to unlock your full potential, Big Little Gyms is here to help, from proven systems to expert support. We provide tools that you need to scale your business, increase revenue, and build a thriving community. So be sure to check out biglittlegyms.com. With that, I want to move on to the rapid fire round, which is kind of like the fun part. We get to let our hair down a little bit, talk about some things that are just kind of off the cuff. Couple questions here. What's your favorite workout or movement? If you can only do one, or what's Mycal really, really good at in the gym that's like, just brings a smile to your face when you get to do it?
Dude, I gotta tell you, man, I'm 230 pounds, and being able to show that muscle up every once in a while does a lot for my ego, man.
Yeah. I've seen some of those deadlifts, man. You've been pulling some weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what's the funniest or like just most memorable moment you've had in your time? Just call it your career, because I know you've done multiple things along the way during your gym ownership or prior.
Yeah, I'd say the most memorable moment I have is sitting down with my wife, who had a full-time corporate career for a really long time, and making a strategic decision for the both of us to make this a no shit family business and come into partnership in totality. Business, husband, wife, mother, father, like she's my partner in everything. And to be able to have a mission and a vision that is clear enough, and successful enough to support the both of us, you can't top that, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're spot on, man. It's I always tell young men whenever they ask me, like, what should I be focusing on? And obviously you never want to tell a young man to just go get married. That could be a big mistake, right? He's got to find the right person. And that's really what the best advice, it's like the person you align with in all walks of life, that person, you're going to spend your life with, is probably the single most important decision you make. But then also the way that you guys come together, which it takes a certain amount of maturity and awareness, because, there's moments in every relationship and ups and downs, and you got to be big enough to come together and come above that stuff as life, especially as you have kids and all these things going on in life, multiple projects and businesses you're working at. These things can all become stressors that make you less present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, what's one book, or it can be multiple books, that if you like, what should every leader and gym owner read? Progress Always. All right.
That's my bestseller, Inner Circle. It's on Amazon. Read that one. So shameless plug.
All right.
But no, man, the top three: The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. That one just recently came into my universe, and that was a game changer. The Four Agreements by Paulo Coelho was massive, and then the tried and true Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Sure,
well,
man.
Mycal, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us today, man. Your work at Next Level Performance Consulting is truly inspiring. And I know our listeners will gain so much from your experience. For our listeners, if you want to learn more about Mycal and Next Level Performance Consulting, how can they follow or connect with you, Mycal?
Yeah, man, you can find me at Coach Derz, DERZ, on Instagram. I'm alive and well in LinkedIn land on the consulting end of things. And then you can follow our Next Level tribe, nextlevel_PHX, on all things social.
Awesome. And if you're a gym owner and you're ready to take your gym to the next level, like Mycal has, be sure to visit biglightlegyms.com to book a free strategy session call today. Let's get you started on your own growth journey, and join us next time as we bring on another inspiring guest to share their story and strategies of their success. You won't want to miss it.